The morning of September 480 BC. A narrow strip of sea at Salamis, no wider than a river in places. On one side, the greatest navy the world has ever assembled, the fleet of the Persian king of kings. On the other, a few hundred Greek ships, outnumbered, trapped, and one bad decision away from extinction. The West does not know it yet, but everything it will ever become hangs on the next few hours. This is the day Greece almost died. Not the Greece of marble and myth. The real one. A scattering of quarrelsome cities. Athens already burned to the ground behind them, its people huddled on rocks and islands watching their homeland smoke. Xerxes, ruler of an empire that stretched from the Indus River to the edge of Europe, had come to finish what his father Darius started at Marathon 10 years before. He had bridged the Hellespont with boats lashed together. He had carved a canal through a mountain. He had brought an army so vast that ancient writers swore it drank rivers dry. And he was winning. The Greek alliance was hours from collapse. The Spartans wanted to retreat south to the Isthmus and abandon Athens forever. The fleet was on the verge of scattering, each city sailing home to die alone. One man held them together. An Athenian named Themistocles, a politician with no noble blood and a dangerous idea, sent a secret message to the Persian king. A lie. He told Xerxes the Greeks were about to flee, that if he sealed the straits at night, he could destroy them all at once. Xerxes believed him. He moved his fleet into the narrows and darkness. And that was the divergence. In our timeline, the trap closed on Persia instead. The huge fleet, packed into water too tight to maneuver, was rammed and shattered by the smaller, faster Greek ships. Xerxes watched his navy burn from a golden throne on the shore. He went home. A year later, his army was broken at Plataea. Greece survived, and in the century that followed came Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, the Parthenon, the first democracy, the foundations of nearly everything the Western world would later call its own. But what if Themistocles had failed? What if the Greek captains, panicked and divided, had slipped away in the night before the trap was set? What if Xerxes, instead of charging blindly into the straits, had simply waited, blockaded, and let the alliance fall apart on its own? Then Salamis is not a victory. It is a slaughter, or worse, a surrender without a fight. And the timeline where Persia erased Greece begins. Picture the weeks after. With the fleet gone, there is nothing to stop the Persian navy from rounding the Peloponnese. The isthmus wall the Spartans were building becomes meaningless when an army can simply be landed behind it from the sea. Sparta, for all its legend, is one city of a few thousand warriors. It cannot face the whole weight of the empire alone. Within a year, the southern Greeks do what most of the northern Greeks had already done. They submit. They give Xerxes earth and water, the ancient tokens of surrender. Greece becomes what Ionia already was, a satrapy, a western province of Persia, governed by a local strongman who answers to the king of kings, paying tribute in silver and soldiers. Now, trace it forward. Athens is not rebuilt as a democracy. Democracy in our world was barely a generation old in 480 BC, a fragile Athenian experiment. Under Persian rule, it is simply switched off. The city is restored, but as a loyal client, its assembly replaced by a governor's court. The radical idea that ordinary citizens should rule themselves dies in its cradle, remembered only as a strange thing some defeated rebels once tried. And the men who would have defined Western thought? Socrates is born around 469 BC into a Greece that is now a Persian province. He may still ask his questions in the marketplace, but there is no golden Athens to make him famous, no democratic court to put him on trial, no Plato free to build an academy under a system that prizes open argument. The conditions that turned a stonemason's son into the father of philosophy never assemble. The ideas do not vanish because they were impossible. They vanish because the soil that grew them was paved over. The consequences ripple outward for centuries. Without a free, victorious Greece, there is no Greek golden age to dazzle a young republic across the sea. Rome, when it rises, grows up in a Mediterranean shaped by Persian power not Greek culture. The Romans of our world consciously modeled themselves on the Greeks. They copied Greek gods, Greek art, Greek philosophy, Greek drama. Strip that away, and Rome inherits a different inheritance. Perhaps it still conquers, but the civilization it spreads across Europe is not the Greco-Roman one our world was built on. The very phrase loses its meaning. Then comes Alexander. Or rather, he doesn't. In our timeline, a Macedonian king named Philip unites the Greek cities, and his son Alexander uses their combined strength and a burning desire to avenge Xerxes' invasion, to march east and destroy the Persian Empire entirely. That whole story depends on a free Greece existing to be united. In the timeline where Persia won at Salamis, Macedon is just another tributary on the empire's northern edge. There is no crusade east. There is no Hellenistic world, no Greek kingdoms stretching to Afghanistan, no Greek becoming the common tongue of the ancient Near East. The Persian Empire is never broken. It simply endures the dominant civilization of the known world for centuries longer than it ever did. The map of everything is redrawn. The language of scholarship is Persian, not Greek. The dominant religious current flowing into late antiquity is not the Greek-influenced philosophy that shaped early Christianity, but Zoroastrian and Mesopotamian traditions carried on Persian roads. The alphabet, the architecture, the political vocabulary of the West, our words for democracy, philosophy, history, politics, all of them Greek, are never handed down because the culture that minted them never had its moment to shine. One fleet in one strait on one September morning. That is all it took. And here is the part that should unsettle you. None of this required magic. No miracle saved Greece in our world. It was a bluff, a panicked alliance that almost shattered, and a stretch of water just narrow enough. Themistocles gambled, and the dice fell his way. They could so easily have fallen the other. So look around at the world you live in. The vote you cast. The right to argue in public and call it freedom. The idea that truth is something you reason toward, not something a king hands down. The plays, the courts, the very habit of asking why. Almost all of it traces back, through Rome, through the Renaissance, to a handful of Greek cities that survived a morning they had no business surviving. We treat that inheritance as if it were inevitable, as if the West was always going to happen. But it wasn't waiting in the wings of history, guaranteed. It was one battle from never existing at all. It survived by the width of a strait and the nerve of a single desperate man. The next time someone tells you the world we have was always meant to be, remember Salamis. Remember how close the lights came to going out before they were ever fully lit. It all came down to one morning, and it very nearly went the other way.